I'm here with Eoin Colfer and I'll be asking some questions about his books. Owen, I know that all of your characters have an inherent humorous quality, and I met you a few years ago and you're pretty funny. Do you think that the humour in your novels detracts from or adds to the main message?
I think it adds to these novels because they're that kind of book. They're funny and fast-paced, but it wouldn't add to every kind of book. But I've come to accept now that being funny is part of my style. I have tried to break that pattern, but I just can't. I can't seem to do it. If I see an opportunity to put in a gag, I will put it in. So whichever one of my books you look at, or whichever genre it's in, they always tend to be funny.
There are a lot of messages to glean from your novels. The importance of friends and protecting the environment, to name a few. But if there was one message that you wanted your readers to take from the Artemis series, what would that message be?
I think, for me, the important central message that goes through each one of the books is family, and how Artemis gradually realizes that his family and maybe his friends are the most important thing to him. And at the beginning of the first book, he wants to save his mother, but really just so she can facilitate his adventures. But by the end of the last book, he realizes that without his family and his brothers, his own life doesn't mean anything. And in fact, he is prepared to sacrifice his own life just to ensure that his little brothers are safe.
Do you hear from your readers much? And what do they say?
I do hear from my readers. They send me letters all the time. I get big stacks of fan mail, which I try to read all of them, and they're very interesting. Very often they tell me about their favourite characters. For the boys, it's nearly always Myles because he has wind problems, and the girls usually like Holly because she's something of a role model, and they send me a lot of artwork also. But I think my favourite stories that I get are occasional letters from parents who say that their kids never read a book before, but when they got Artemis Fowl, they started reading. And I think that when I get a letter like that, I think, well, that's a job well done.
Are there any questions that you're absolutely sick of answering in interviews?
There are some questions that you get a lot of. The first one would be, where do you get your ideas? But I don't get sick of that because that's a valid question from young writers who really want to know what is the best way to get your brain ready to write a book. So I don't get sick of that question. When I began my career, I was asked a lot about Harry Potter, and sometimes I would be only asked about Harry Potter, which was a bit frustrating. I'm not annoyed at J.K. Rowling because I actually really like those books, but so I would pretend and make up different answers just to keep myself entertained. So I would pretend that I made up the idea of Harry Potter and I rang J.K. Rowling and gave it to her, and I invented the Hunger Games and Twilight and most of Stephen King's books. And I don't think anyone ever really believed me, but it's an interesting exercise to see if I would say that in Los Angeles, would it be in New York by the time I got there? But I just hope that no one actually believes that and I get sued at some point, because I didn't make up those things at all.
I'd now like to talk about the way in which you craft your novels, and I'm wondering what your work schedule is like.
It's funny, but I don't see it as a work schedule. I see it as a hobby schedule, because for a long time I was a teacher and a dad, because my wife was had her job, so I was minding the kids after school. And so writing for me was like sitting down and watching TV for other people. It was a real relaxation and almost therapeutic. So I still feel like that, and I cherish the time when I'm able to go out to my office on my own and put on my 1980s heavy metal music, put on my wig. No, just kidding. And write, and I love that time. So I don't think of it as work.
I know that Artemis Fowl and The Last Guardian is the last in the series, and I'm really sad about that because Artemis is a great character and it's a great series. Can you tell us anything about Artemis's future, sort of after the series, or is that answered in the book?
Well, it is answered to a certain extent. The book has, I think, a really good ending. It's a twist that you might see coming about 2 pages beforehand, but hopefully I've hidden it well enough. So I think everyone's going to be pretty happy with the ending. But I understand what you're saying. He's a good character. Why don't I just keep writing books about him? But I think it's good to finish while it's strong. So I think the last book is one of the best books, and it's going to be very satisfying. But it is not just a big goodbye book. Very often the last book in a series, nearly half the book is spent with everybody saying goodbye.
Yeah.
It's great, thank you, give me a hug, and so Artemis has to go around to everyone. But it's not like that. The goodbyes are very quick.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been great to get to know you and to hear all your experiences with writing the series. I'm really looking forward to reading the last Artemis book and then continuing on with the rest of your artistic journey.
Well, thank you very much. It's been lovely to see you again.